Go. Okay, so ask me your 3 questions. Let's make it a little bit faster this time.
Okay. How is your country progressing out of the third world status?
So there's a lot of things, like I was showing you on my website. There's a lot of things that they're going through with the millennial goals to progress out of the third world status. I don't think there's exactly just one thing. Education's a big one, of course, and gender equality, but each category kind of has its specific thing that is trying to help the country progress and eventually reach its ultimate goal of getting out of the third world status. Right now, they're progressing, but since the millennial goals are kind of the report cards due in 2015, I don't think they're going to exactly reach them, but they're certainly working towards the goals of educating their people, giving them the health that they need, and really helping them progress into a better state of economic and social status. Question 2, please.
What kind of currency do they use?
They use the American dollar, although they don't get as much as we do. They only get about $300 a month, and with an average paying job, you get like 30 cents an hour. It's not that much, so it kind of evens out for their minimum wage. And yeah.
What efforts are being made to reduce the infant mortality rates?
I think education is the biggest one. Educating the mothers on how to treat themselves in the time period of their pregnancy. A lot of them have just diets of rice and beans, and they continue to have that diet throughout the pregnancy. And we all know that they need to have more vitamins and minerals, iron in their diet, so that they'll be prepared for when they have the baby. And so that's one thing that I think would help a lot. And another thing is the education of their doctors and nurses. Like the United States, they're kind of raising the bar with the education, but at the same time, I don't think they have the same medical technology that we have in order to help get a child to this earth. And child hunger is just as bad as everybody else, and I think the children suffer just as much, if not more, because the parents have food and the children don't have food, and it alternates, but depending on the family. But I think a lot has to do with that maternal health, and eventually I think they'll get better in their education and their technology, that they'll eventually have that taken care of along with the poverty. So yeah, they're progressing little by little. So I'm going to teach you the millennial goals right now and what they are, and also how my country's doing in that. And so the first millennial goal is to eradicate poverty or hunger. In my opinion, this is kind of a far-fetched goal, because how can you completely eradicate it? But I think it's a really good goal at the same time, because it's helping people realize that we need to crack down on that certain goal. And El Salvador is doing all right in this. I mean, I've compared them to other countries in Africa, and they're better off than Africans are. So, they're kind of in the middle of that third world country. They're up there, but they're not the highest on the list. The second goal is achieve universal primary education. This is like elementary school here. It's not like college or high school. It's just so everyone gets a basis knowledge of how to read and write, and math skills as well. And hopefully eventually they'll be able to progress little by little, raising the bar. How we once could just go with an associate's education in college. Now a bachelor's is pretty much like that. So little by little they'll progress. They're getting better, and they're actually going over the expected rate of the millennial goal on that. So that's good. Third is gender equality, empowering women. This is slow. I think they compare like number of seats held in parliament, their government, to like empowerment of women, but really I don't think socially that women have been completely empowered. I think they're viewed as more of an object at some time, and that they could be treated with more respect and get a better education, instead of just women don't just belong in the house. They can actually help in society and contribute a lot in raising children and teaching them the skills that they learned in school. And so that's one thing I think is big. If they had the equality and went to school, I think that would empower a lot of future children and generations. Fourth is reduce child mortality. Like I was telling you, I think it's going little by little. It's decent. I think with the education of the mother and technology, I think that will be lowered along with the poverty. So it'll progress. The fifth is to improve maternal health. And like I was also telling you earlier, like the different fruits and vegetables and just a variety diet to help a mother along in her prenatal stage and everything like that would really improve the maternal health and the understanding of how to treat your body during pregnancy would really help. And they're doing all right in that, but they, like I said, they're not the lowest, but they can always improve. The sixth one is combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. This is pretty much to help deter the diseases from spreading. It's really bad in Africa. They sleep around, and as well in El Salvador. I think they have a lot of those sex ed kind of groups going around teaching safe sex kind of education, but at the same time I think they can also improve on that, and they'll eventually understand what's the word on my mind? The reactions of their decisions and how they can combat that. Anyway, I just had a brain lapse.
Consequences?
Yeah, consequences of their actions, yes. 7 is to ensure the environmental stability. Just kind of looking at America, we used to have forests here, and now it's a lot of cities and overpopulations everywhere. I think they're doing all right, but at the same time, it's just to ensure that they keep that balance of keeping their environment stable and not overwhelming it with overgrowing and using the crops and cutting down trees and everything like that. There has to be a balance, and I think they're doing all right on that. I think that they use a lot of wood, and I don't think they have a very strict rule regulation kind of going to cut down trees, but I think they could definitely improve in that area. I think they have a restriction on it, but that doesn't necessarily entail that people follow it. It's kind of a culture thing that has to be taught, and so that's why education, everything goes back to education in these rules, so that's really important. Develop global partnerships for development. They have a lot of factories there that kind of import-export, that creates trade and helps produce revenue for the country. Also, Habitats for Humanity, a lot of doctors go in there to help children with dental problems. And I actually had that a little bit more. So, I actually had the opportunity to see doctors come in from the United States and actually help take out tonsils and wisdom teeth and stuff like that. So that was really cool, and they just have support groups that do that voluntarily. So I don't think these goals are necessarily good just because there's like 8 of them and it's like, bam, you gotta do this by 2015. But I think it was a really good idea to actually, it brings people into focus, like, oh, we have to focus on this, people are going to be watching us, instead of just like, do what you want to do. At the same time, I think they could have done better with like following up on the goals, and they have yearly, but I don't think they've like gotten very strict on them. It's like, just try to do this, but I think they could do a lot better. How can they improve in a meaningful way? I would say focus on gender equality and education, because all those goals that they have really involve education, and if women get educated, I really feel that that would flip around the country, because an educated mother doesn't just sit in the house, they actually teach the children, and if the children are taught before they actually hit school, there'll be higher chances of enjoying school, understanding the literature and learning, having that step up. So I think that would really help the gradual step up of education and kind of just eliminate all these problems. I think that El Salvador is doing fairly well. They're progressing little by little, and I think they're eventually going to get out of it in the third world country, and I'm really glad to see that there's actually something being done. I'm glad the United Nations has set these goals so that they can at least have this focus of, you better try to get these done, we're watching you, kind of responsibility and accountability going on. Yeah, I think they'll progress, and eventually El Salvador will be a country just like us. And we've watched videos where, I mean, Africa, they've only had like 100 years to progress up to where we've been, and we've been a culture that's been progressing for like 1,000 years and stuff like that. So they're not doing too bad if you look at the point of view where they've actually been civilized for like 100 years. So I think that's kind of goes along with the Central Americans, that they can actually progress. So yeah, that's my spiel. Hope you learned a lot. Good.